Can everyone hear me now? All right. So I was talking about our last assignment. I said those that submitted the zip file, they'll have to upload it to a public GitHub repository, and then they should submit the link to the repository. And also for those that already submitted, I checked most of the code base, everything seems fine. And if for those that I have concerns with, I already dropped it as comments to the submissions. But one common thing I noticed is that I think I saw about 3 people that uploaded their code base to GitHub with the node modules folder. When you are working with a Node.js project or any JavaScript project that has the node module folder, you want to add node modules to your Git ignore so that you will be pushing it to GitHub. And anybody that clones the project can just run npm install and to install all npm packages you are using in your project, whereby the person will need to download the node modules from your code base. Do we get that? All right, so today I'll be introducing us to MongoDB. Okay, so I said today I'll be introducing us to MongoDB, which is a non-SQL or a NoSQL database. So we have 2 types of database. We have the SQL database and we have the NoSQL database. In our last class, we worked on MySQL, which is a SQL database. And today we'll be working on MongoDB, which is a NoSQL database. I'll be sharing the screen now. Can everyone see my screen? So these are the differences between a SQL database and a NoSQL database. For SQL database, it uses data application, so you can make some coding skill in your SQL. You can make that way to create a single entry, also have a single attribute in your MySQL. However, in NoSQL database, whenever I say MongoDB, just know I'm talking about NoSQL database. In MongoDB, in NoSQL database, you can't do that. Sorry, I guess I'm getting something else. So what we have is reducing data application by
You're not audible. Your line is breaking.
You don't have your data difference. It's everything there it's a can you hear me now?
It keeps breaking. We didn't hear any part when you're explaining. Still can't hear you.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
All right, so I was talking about MySQL databases and NoSQL databases. It's reducing its okay. The key focus for MySQL database is reducing data duplication. Why for NoSQL database is scaling and rapid application change. So NoSQL database can adapt quickly when your system configuration changes. While for SQL database, most times when you're working with SQL database, you have to plan how your database structures will look like, thereby changing your system structure may be a little bit difficult. This data storage model for SQL database, you save in tables. You save your data in tables, fixed rows and columns. So the columns includes the ID, just like the project you are currently working on. The columns includes the ID, the name, the author name, and so on. While the rows are actual are like the data you want to add to your database. So each row represents one entity or one object. And for NoSQL, we deal with documents. We deal with documents that JSON documents basically they are in key pair value or in key value. Yeah, they are in key value pairs. So for NoSQL database, you won't have to be setting up tables. You won't have to be setting up table rows and columns. Just add your objects. I mean, just add your documents and the and the collections you'll adapt. For the schemas, SQL database schemas are rigid, while the NoSQL database are flexible. For NoSQL, I can say I can be working on a document that doesn't have, let's say, last modified art, that doesn't have that attribute, and I decide to add it, I can just add it from my code base without having to update anything on my database. All right, data to object mapping requires ORM. Yes, for SQL database, you have to use ORMs like there's Prisma, there's Type ORM. You have to use ORM for those. And for NoSQL database, typically doesn't it typically doesn't require ORMs. MongoDB documents map directly to data structures in popular programming languages, just like JavaScript. So when you are getting a document from MongoDB, it is coming as a JavaScript. it is actually coming from MongoDB as JSON, and then your, let's say, Mongoose can pass it to an object, so a JavaScript object. And then for scaling, there's vertical scaling and there's horizontal scaling. So for scaling, if you want to scale a SQL database, you have to increase the size of the server. You want to increase the RAM, you want to increase the CPUs, you want to increase the storage. However, for NoSQL, you can do horizontal scaling. Horizontal scaling includes, it actually means adding another system. Instead of increasing the current system, you want to add another system to be handling your database. An additional difference between these two guys that is not in this image I'm showing you is that to get data from a SQL database, you have to use the SQL queries, right? While for MongoDB, you don't have to work with queries. So like I said, today I'll be introducing us to MongoDB. So let's open our projects. And let's open our Postman. All right, so to proceed, I'll be going to be, can everyone still see my screen? All right, Oladimeji, you are raising your hand. Oladimeji, you are raising your, I guess you want to say something. All right, Oladimeji, I guess you want to say something.
Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So while looking into the SQL database and
I can
databases
hear
as a whole,
you.
yeah, I'm speaking already. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can still hear you.
Hello? Okay, so while looking at MySQL database
I can
and
still hear you.
generally data, so I got to found out that
Yes.
MySQL is a relational database. Then I looked into MongoDB and saw that it was a non-relational database. So I just like to know the difference between those two because it was occurring frequently in different places I was looking into.
All right. I guess I didn't mention in my description or in my details that SQL database are relational database, while MongoDB are non-relational database. And what relational database means is that you can be able to relate tables together, right? You can say I have table users. I have table users and I have table books. I can be able to say this book, this row of book belongs to this user. So I can say the book that has ID 1, right, belongs to user that has ID 10. Are you getting me? So that's relationship. I can say a user has one-to-many relationship, one-to-many relationship to books. And what one-to-many relationship means is that one user can have many books. That's one-to-many. And for books, I can say books have many-to-one relationship to users. So I can say what many-to-one relationship means is that one multiple books can belong to one user. And for one-to-one, it means one book can belong to one user. Many-to-many means many books can belong to many users, and many users can belong to many books. So basically, for SQL database, you can be able to relate tables together. While for non-SQL database, there's nothing like that. You just get your document and do whatever you want to do with it within your code base. Do you get that? Sorry, did you get me? I'm having some technical issues.
Yes, I got the explanation. Thank
Can
you.
anyone hear me? All right, all right. So I said today we'll be working with MongoDB. I'm really not a I don't really work with no SQL database, but for the sake of this um for the sake of this training, I'll have to revisit it. MongoDB.com. You'll have to create an account on MongoDB.com. I think I already have an account, so I'll just continue with Google. So when you create your account, you'd see an option for you to create a new project. So let me do that. Let me create a new project and say Dive Africa. Additional types optional. So we can just say next. Create project. All right, so after creating the project, you want to create a cluster. We come here and say we want to create a cluster. What's the name of our cluster? You can see Dive cluster. And what does cluster mean? It's like your, okay, use the templates below to set up advanced configuration option. You can also edit these configurations options. So cluster is like your storage space, your server, and the resources you'll be using. We'll be going for the free option. We're going for the free option, and which provider do we want to use? You want to use AWS. Region, we just want to select. So it is always advisable to select the cluster where it is closer to where it is closer to your user base. So if your users are in Nigeria and you have something near South Africa, you may want to use that. But for now, I'll just be selecting this default one and you can create. So now we have our cluster. We want to connect our backend, which is this our code base, to our cluster. Firstly, we want to somewhere here we'll get somewhere here. All right, so I'm going to create a database user. Let me copy this, save it somewhere here. Let me just say, I won't be using it, but let me just say Mongo password, Mongo user password is this, and let's say the username should be dive user. So I'm creating database user. Username is dive user. So after doing that, I'm saying choose connection method. So I want to connect using drivers, which is access your Atlas database, access your Atlas data using Mongo's native driver, Node.js or Go. So I want to use these drivers, and here I want to select Mongoose. So Mongoose is a package we use in Node.js to communicate with what's it called? MongoDB. And this guy here is telling me to install the driver. So what I'm going to do is to copy this command and install Mongoose. And again, I also want to open Mongoose ODM. I'm coming. So after installing that, I should have somewhere I should get somewhere. Okay. Okay, I should get connect to MongoDB, right? There's something I skipped. This is MongoDB Atlas. MongoDB Atlas. And it is somewhere you can host your MongoDB database if you don't want to host it, if you don't want to put it on your local host. Are you getting me? If you don't want to set up a MongoDB server on your system, you can just use the MongoDB Atlas. So I guess my, okay. All right, so Mongoose is installed, and I want to click on connect here. If I'm correct, yes. All right, so after installing Mongoose, I have the step 3, which is to add your connection string to your application code. So this is my connection string. I'm going to copy it and say to come here somewhere here and say database URI is this guy. This is our database URI, MongoDB. So for this DB password, we are going to replace that with our password. So yes. And this is the host. This is not a local host. So if it is something like, if we are using MySQL also uses database URI. So it will be something like this. If I'm correct, MySQL, our user will be root. I know we don't have password, so this will be blank. This will be local host. I think local host at something. However, we are dealing with MongoDB here, so this is our connection string. Oh, yes, it is our connection string. This is the dev user, that's the username, and here is the password. This is the host. And that, when I say host, I'm talking about the server. And you can see our connection string already have our, what's it called? Our app name. That's the cluster name, which is type cluster. So I can remove this other two. And yes, now that we are done with connection, what we just did here is to get our connection string. We want to actually connect to our MongoDB database. So what are we going to do? We are going to come to Mongoose. We have this guy, just like we have it here. It says constant Mongoose is required Mongoose. So we are going to copy this, come to our index.js. I just hope I'm still connected. Can everyone still hear me? All right. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to bring that somewhere here. So just like we have for every other packages we've installed, we have constant Mongoose is require Mongoose. And then we want to connect to Mongoose. We are going to come to somewhere here. Yes, somewhere here, constant Mongoose.connect. Yes, Mongoose.connect. And if you check, let me just copy this. So it's not a constant. And we have Mongoose.connect. And here we are expecting our connection string, which we already have in our database URL, in our env file rather, as database URL. So what we are going to do is just replace this with process.env.database URI. If I'm correct. This is going to return us a promise, so I can say .10 response. We are going to have access to results here, response results. And after the connection is successful, we want to say console.log what's it called? Console.log connection to MongoDB successful. Right, and let's come here. If there's an error, then we want to say .patch. Then we have access to error. We can just say console.error. It's the error we have access to. Let me try running this project. I'm not sure it's run because I uninstalled my SQL. Let me see. What's the error again? So what I'm going to do is to come to somewhere in services. We're using database. You know what I'm going to do? I'll just come here and say, let's connection, and I'll comment this out. I'll comment this out. Our application will run. So yes, our application is running now. You can see server listening to port 3000. And after a while, we are getting, let me close this and reopen. npm run dev. So our application started listening before our connection is successful, which means while the system is still trying to make this connection and we trigger one of our endpoints, it won't be able to, that will give us an error. Why? Because it hasn't established connection to our database. So what are we going to do? We want to listen to port 3000 only when our database connection is successful. So what we are going to do is to say, this guy will return a promise. Then after it is successful, instead of logging that to the console, we want to say app.listen to port. Yes. And everything we have here as well. So we can remove this from here. Correct. Yeah, port. I hope everyone is still connected. All right, so let me come again. Mongoose.connect, we are passing in our database URI, which we already specified here. And we got this from MongoDB, this string, we got it from MongoDB. And after the connection is successful, we want to start listening to port. We want the app, which is this, our app here, the Express app, to start listening to port. Port, what's port? It is the port we specified in our .env. So after listening to that, after we are sure that our port is listening, which is what we specified here, then we can log server listening to port 3000 in that console. So I believe we still understand that. So if I terminate this, you notice that our server doesn't start listening immediately. It needs, let me just log this. Console.log connection to MongoDB successful. Yes. So yeah, you can see connection to MongoDB successful, and after that is when it is listening to port 3000. So let's go back to the MongoDB documentation, the Mongoose documentation rather. If you come here, you will see that we can create, first we want to create a schema. Let's go to the docs. We want to create a schema. So what are we going to do? We are going to create a new folder here and say models, right? And inside the models folder, we want to say book.cs. This is where we are going to create our book model. But before creating the model, we want to create the schema. And how do we do that? We will import Mongoose from Mongoose. And we are not working with this here. We are going to say constant Mongoose is what? Require Mongoose. Require Mongoose. And we want to get schema. We want to say constant schema is what? Mongoose.schema, if I'm correct. Mongoose.schema, yes. So how do we define our schema? We want to say constant book schema is a new Mongoose schema. And inside the schema, we are going to pass in an object which will receive what are the objects we have in our books? If I say, I don't have the, okay, should have post here. We have the name and the author. So I want to come here and say name. Should also receive an object of type string and required, this should be string. Sorry. This type should be string and required should be true. So which means the type of this name should be string. That's the data type, and then it is required. So if you can't find the name, and if you can't find name in the object you are trying to create or get, it should give us an error. And after that, we have what? We have the author as well, which is a type of string, and required is true. Required is true. If you check the documentation again, we should have that. We should have that. We should have that. Yes. So type is string and required is true. All right. So something else we want to add is after the schema, I think we want to have options of timestamp. Sorry, let's check the documentation for timestamp. So timestamps, we're creating a schema after is the first schema, and then the second here we are telling the schema that timestamps is true. And here that we want Mongoose to undo that for us automatically. Now we have our schema. We want to create our model. We can now take commands. So, okay, mongoose.model. This will receive the singular name of the model and then the schema. That should be book schema. So what is happening here is that whenever we try to communicate, whenever we try to use this book model, Mongoose will try to communicate with books. Mongoose will try to communicate with books. With books. And where is books gotten from? Plural of the name provided. So it will try to communicate with books. And where is the books gotten from? The plural of this book we provided. So it will try to check for books. If you provided user, it will try to check, it will communicate with users. That's the user collections. Right. So we have book and we have the book schema. So this is the model which we'll be using in our own code base. So what we want to do, we want to say module.export. Am I correct? I think I'm correct. Somewhere we did that somewhere here. But I want to, since I'm exporting only the book schema here, I mean the book model, and just say book. Are you getting me now? So what we want to do is to say, very, very simple. In our code base, in our controller, we have the create endpoints. We have the, let me copy this again so I don't delete things that already exist there. I can just say book controller SQL and say this one is book controller static. So when you are saying this, you are saying that it should be SQL.js. This is the controller where we work with SQL. This is the one where we work with the books array. And this current one is where we work with MongoDB. So yes, we have the create book. So here, instead of saying book service.create book, we want to say constant book. Is what? Let's comment this out. Is what? New book. And where are we getting book from? We should import book. We can say constant book is what require. Come out of this folder, go to models and select book. Right. So we want to say a new book which will receive what? The name. Name should be data.name. Sorry. Name should be data.name. And author should be data.author. And yes, now we have book. We have an object of book, but it is not saved in our MongoDB yet. What we want to do is to say book.save. But I'm getting an error here. Let's check. Cannot find models book. Come out of this folder, go to models, select book. And something is not right here. All right, so this should be book.javascript.js, not TypeScript. Yes, book.js. I think we should be good now. All right. Okay. So we can come here and say, where is it called? We are trying to create book. We can say raw book, and we can say constant book is what? Raw book.save. And this will give us a promise of the actual book. We can say await, so we are going to wait for it. And yes, so we should have book here. Are we all still connected? Does everyone understand what I've done up to this point? So let me reiterate again. From this .env file, we got our MongoDB server, the database URI, that's the connection string. Sorry. We got the connection string from the MongoDB website, and that is MongoDB Atlas. And what do I say MongoDB Atlas is? If you, just like we installed MySQL, if you don't want to install MySQL locally, just like we installed MySQL, if you don't want to install, you can install MongoDB as well, right? But if you don't want to install it on your own system, you can use MongoDB Atlas, which is self-hosted, which is hosted already. You just create your own cluster. That's like your own application on Atlas, and you connect to it. I hope you are getting me now. So inside this Atlas, after creating our dev cluster, which is the application, I click on connect, select driver, I choose Mongoose, and I got this instruction: install your driver Mongoose, npm install Mongoose. And after installing the driver, I got the third instruction, which is this connection string. If I click on view food code base, you can see it here. The URI is this. Client option is blah, 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 blah. But you can see mongoose.connect URI and then client option. I think we'll use this client option if you have an error. And, Okay, so this is to ping and be sure that the server, the Mongoose connection is successful. But basically, if you want to connect to your data into your MongoDB database, use mongoose.connect and your database URI. So after doing that, I came to my code base again. I created a model. So model is what we will be communicating with. So if you want to use book anywhere, you would have to say book.create, book.find by ID, book.do anything. Are you getting me now? And before we can create a model, we'll need a schema. So this schema explains how our documents, our book documents will look like, the structure of our document. So with what I've created here, I'm saying my book should be something like this. The name should be string, should be a string, yes. Should be a string. The author should be a string. And with this timestamp, I'm saying Mongoose should add a timestamp as well, which would have created at a string, and we should have updated at, it could be a string as well. So everything I've done here, this is what I'm saying. Are you getting me now? And to create our model, we'll say mongoose.model, and then we'll insert the name of the model, which is book, the name of a single document, which is book, and then we'll put in our schema as well. So when we are interacting with this book model, Mongoose will look for books, which is the plural of this guy we passed in here. Mongoose will look for books, which is the plural of this guy we passed in here. If you pass user, it will look for users. If you pass products, it will look for products. But today we are working with book, and it will look for books. So once I have my model, I can export it just like we've been using exports in our code base. And then in my book controller, I can create a new book, which is the raw book. If it is not saved yet, it is not added to our database yet. Are you getting me? So after creating the book, I want to save. It is this save method that will now put it in our database, in our actual database. And where is our database hosted? It is hosted on Atlas. So by the time we hit this save, we'll be able to see it here. If I'm communicating with someone, and this guy will return us the actual book created, which you can put here, and we can return it the same way we've been returning. So let me come back to my postman, and let's send this request. Now we have an error. Validation error. Author is required. So here is meant to be author. As you can see, I'm getting validation error. Why? Because I added required here. And here I'm saying hot. I just corrected it to author now. So I'm saying hot. I was saying hot instead of author. So let me save this, and the server should be running by now. It's not listening yet. Connection is not successful yet. So we have to wait for this connection to be successful. Now the connection is successful and our server is running. So let's send. Now you can see we still have everything working. Here we now have the name, the author. We now have the underscore ID, the created at, updated at, and underscore version. Underscore V is version, and that's version 0. So as we update it, the version will be changing. If I reload this guy, I should see our connections on our, what's it called? Our collections somewhere here. Yeah, browse collections. Now you can see we have, this is tests. I'm supposed to create a new collection. And if I could come to, okay. So I have a cluster, but I didn't create a database. I was supposed to create a database, and the name of my database should be somewhere here. Let me check for tests. Anyways, I'm supposed to have, let me just create a database. So it's not to be confusing us. So yeah, I want to create a database. Collections. I want to say add my own data. And what's our database name? I want to say books app or book app. Collection name, let's just say books, and create. I think I can be able to connect from there. Okay, so let me just go back to this our guy here. Let's just add database should be book app. I think that should work. So let's terminate and run again. Okay, option database is not supported, so let's just remove it. So this is the actual URL we got from Mongoose, from MongoDB rather, not Mongoose. Let's run our server again. Connection successful, and we are listening to port 3000. If I come to Postman, send this request. Now working. Let me reload. I guess it will create something test. So this is actually creating another database for us, which is called tests. Is it database or DB? It should be books book app. I'm just trying to make this thing the way it is supposed to be. I guess we'll come back to that. Again, let me also delete this test database. So we are back to where we were initially. We are yet to trigger this endpoint. So when I trigger this endpoint, it will create a database. Okay, my server is not listening yet. I think I need to terminate and restart. My server is listening now. If I send this, I should have my book created. And if I come back to my Atlas and reload, you can see I now have my books collections. And inside my book collections, I have just one document. I can manually insert a document here. Okay, so it has added the ID. I can add other things I want. I can say name is demo book. Right, I can say yes, I can say author Ayomide Michael, and we are good. So if you notice now, this second one that is created doesn't have the created at, updated at, and the version. This is because Mongoose is adding this for us from our code base, and this one we just created isn't created from our code base. One sweet thing about MongoDB is that you can add attributes that are not in your schema. So if I come here and say I want to add something like total purchased, right? I can change the data type here. I think this should be an integer. And I can say update not permitted by document contains error. Let me change this. I can say this should be 60 or 30 and updates. You can see the structure of this one is now different from this one. This one now has total purchase. And that is how my NoSQL database is different from an SQL database. Why? Because their documents are the collections. This books is a collection, while the individual book inside this books collection are documents. The documents can be flexible, just like I just added a new attribute, which is not even on my schema, which you can't even try that in the SQL database, right? So I want to delete this. I want to delete this. So we now have just this guy. If you come back to what we want to do now is we've been able to create a book. Let's create another one and say, let's say version 2. And if I come here again, reload. You can see we now have another book here in version 2. Everything works. So what we want to do is to get a single book, find book by ID. We already have the book ID. What we can do here is just say constant book is what? Await book. That's our book model dot find one. You can see find one, and this is going to receive the book ID if I'm correct. And then we want to comment out this previous one. So if I come back to my Postman, copy one of these IDs, let me copy this one and say get books. Get single book rather. I'm going to replace the ID with the ID of our book. And okay. Our server is not running yet. We have an error somewhere. Okay, must be an object. So find one is going to receive an object, if I'm correct. If I'm correct, let's just look at the Mongoose documentation again. Let's check query. Find one. Yes, find one. Find one. We can now say ID is our book ID. I hope I'm correct. Then our server should be running now. Okay. Should send this book not found. Let's check again. I think here we'd want to do document ID, object ID rather, just like we have here. Or is it underscore ID? Let's check underscore ID. All right, so we'll be using, for Mongoose, we'll be using the underscore ID. Why? Because we have underscore ID here, not just ID. So we are getting book where the underscore ID is our book ID. That's the book ID we got from our posts, from our get request rather. And yes, that is working. I guess here I can also say author. Yes, author is location. Not running yet. So I'll remove this. We'll come back to that. For now, we are getting just one book. and find one is going to receive an object which will have the attribute. And don't forget our attributes looks like something like, okay, I've removed it. It has the name, the author, and under the hook, there's the underscore ID, there's created at, and there's updated at. Are you getting me now? So we've done for find book by ID, and we've done for create book. We want to get books. We want to get books. Get books. Again, I'll come to my Mongoose documentation query. You see we have okay, very similar to what we have here. We just say instance books is what await book dot find. This time around we are not finding one, we are looking for multiple books. And again, just find multiple books first. We are not adding any query. I'm communicating with someone. So if I come back to my postman, come to get books, I think this should work. Yes, you can see we are getting our books, our actual books. I now want to say so if we want to add filters, we can use the query. We can use the query. We can pass in an object to this find and then add our filters. So I just want to do this. I want to say I just want to get only the book that has this ID, and I'm going to copy one of the IDs here. And send. Our server is not running yet. Now running. So send. Now you can see I have just one book, but it is still an array, which means if more than one book matches that condition, which is this condition, it is going to give me more than one book. But because just one book can have just one ID, so we are getting one book. So I'm going to remove this, right? Because we are looking for more than one book. We are getting all books. So send. We have this. Good. All right, so what else do we have? We've gone for, let me just remove this. And remove this. So we have create book, we have get all books, and I think we have get book by ID as well. So we want to update book. What we'll do here is to say, I think constant book is what? Book dot update one. Yes, update one. All right, so this update one is going to receive two objects. One is the filter and the second one is the update. So the filter is the condition where we want to check for. And since we want to update just one book, we'll say the underscore ID is book ID. Right, that's the first value. That's the first value the update one method is going to receive. And the second value be another object of the actual value we want to update, which is the name. Name is what? Name. And then author is author. And don't forget, I said me doing this is the same thing as me doing this. Likewise, this is the same thing as this. So that is that. Sorry. So that is that. And I'm going to remove this. This is an asynchronous function. So we want to say await. And yeah, we should be good with that. So let's go to our postman. Update book. Send. We should first get an error here first. Okay. Let's check. All right, so cast object ID field for value 12, type string of right something. We'll come back to this error later. But something that is causing this is because we have 12 here. So again, we want to get our books. Our server is not running. So just a minute. Now our server is running. I want to get our books again. Get one of the IDs, come to update book and put the ID here. So send. All right, so we have all these things that we don't really care about. But again, we have our book ID. We can just say, after updating this, we don't need this. After waiting for the update to be successful, and it is successful, we want to say, for instance, it's what book.find one, or let's just say, yeah, book.find one. Find one. Again, it will receive underscore ID is what book ID. So we have to wait for this to finish executing as well. So I think we should be good with that. Our server is not running yet. I think it's running now. So that works. Let's come back here, get our books again. You can see this one is now updated. You're getting me now. I think the last one here. The last one we are going to touch here is, what's it called? We've done get single update grades. I think we'll be doing delete. And it is somewhere down here. So what we are going to do here is just say await book dot. Excuse me. Let's check our Mongo's documentation again. This is delete menu. We want to delete just one. All right, delete one. So let's just copy this. The name of our model is book. And delete one, we are deleting with ID, where let's go ID is book ID. So this method is not an async function yet. I'm going to say async. And yeah, we are good. So we are going to remove this. Now I'm making an error somewhere. I'm working on the wrong file. So let me just remove all these things. So I was working on the static file, which was the file we're working on when we're using array. So here is where we are doing it. Await book.delete one. And we are saying underscore ID is book ID. Right. So let me just remove this. Yeah, it should be good. So if I come here, let me copy one of these IDs, come to delete book, and replace this 10 with the ID. So send. Book successfully deleted. And if I come here and get book again, and now I have just one book. If I copy this ID again, come to delete books and paste this ID and send. Book successfully deleted. So let me get our books again. We don't have any books. So let's create a new book. Book created, get books. We have just one book, single book. We have our single book. Delete book. We don't want to delete yet. I think we can update. Yes, now updated. Let's get again. Everything still works in our Postman collection. So with MongoDB, we've worked with the CRUD, which is the create, update, which is the create, read, update, and delete. And also for SQL, MySQL as well, we've done create, read, update, and delete. Are we all still connected? Are we all still connected? Can anyone hear me? Okay, good. So let me check our curriculum again. So that will bring us to the end of today's class. I hope we are all able to get something. I'm not much of MongoDB, so most of my projects are SQL projects. So does anyone have any question? Is anyone lost? I believe we have people that have questions. Does anyone have any questions? So does that mean nobody has any question? All right. So Mr. Johnson is not joining us today. He's not available today. Are we all still connected? Can everyone still hear me? All right. So do we all understand MongoDB, or you want us to take it again in our next class? All right. So if you want us to take it again in our next class, use this emoji that I want to use. And if you understand it already, use this. All right. Let's go. Just two people. Just two people. Let me come again. If you want us to work on MongoDB again in our next class, you use this emoji. And if you understand it already, you should use this. All right. Okay. So Adebowale said the video should be uploaded tomorrow. So I'll discuss with the person uploading the video so he can make it available to us as quick as he can, so we can go through. Sorry, I've been talking. I've forgotten I'm muted. So I was asking our previous class on MySQL. I believe everyone has gone through the video. Okay, Adibowale.
That video was posted not like 1 hour before the exam. I mean, before this meeting. So
Oh, wow.
definitely, if we have to review, yeah, it's. I'm looking at the Slack channel now. That was dropped 6:43 p.m. So definitely, for those who wants to review, we've had some lost time. I'm an example of such person because during the last class, I was on transit on Third Milan Bridge to be precise. So getting home and the likes of it, open eyes will come up between that day and now, and did not come up. So this is more like another time, more like two classes to review together. I know it's not going to be an issue, but all the same, if it's we can be helped to ensure that these things are posted earlier, to go is more like reviewing the class before the next class. Yes. So my only question regarding to this class is I wanted to know regarding this schema. When schema has been created, is it possible for yours to fix documents that will be posted to follow the schema all along? Like I noticed that there was a point where you actually added new attributes to a document. So is it possible to fix it from the schema level that all documents that will be created from this schema should abide by the schema? So,
Yes,
and
that's
then one
the
other final question. Okay. One other
okay.
final
No, you
question
can.
is, can you give us a likely scenario where a relational database will be preferred to a NoSQL DB? I'm just asking for a life environment, for industry, what value obtainable, what is obtainable.
All right. So for I initially wanted to give us an assignment concerning MySQL, but since the video was uploaded this evening, I guess the assignments would have to come later. Right. And the second one was, what's the second question again?
Yeah, the schema, when the schema is created, is it compulsory to ensure, or is there anything one can do to ensure that every other document that will be created from the schema must be cannot be edited? More like we cannot add new, what do you call it, like new attributes to a document later, but all must be tied to that schema. Is it possible?
So that's the point of having a schema. When you create a schema, you are telling your code base that every document created for this schema should follow this pattern. However, if you notice the one I updated or the one I changed it directly on the MongoDB database, which is on Atlas, and that isn't passing through the application. In most times, you are not communicating directly with the database. You would have to communicate with the database through the app. And once you have your schema created, every document you are creating would have to follow that schema. And lastly, you mentioned the use case for relational database, that's SQL database, and NoSQL database. So for relational database, I mentioned the other time that it is database where tables can relate to each other. For example, now you are a user. You can be a user in a database and also have. So in a database, in a MySQL, in a SQL database, you can have table for users, and have table for posts, like blog posts. Are you getting me? And you can now say users have one-to-many relationship to post, which means one user can have more than one post. That's many posts. And you can say posts have many-to-one relationship, which means many posts can belong to one user. And you can say users have one-to-many relationship to comments. Are you getting me? So this is the advantage of using relational database, whereby you can specify database relations, table relationships. One table can have many to one, one to many, and so many relationships like that. Do you get that? Why on MongoDB you can't connect connections to each other? Do you get me? All right. So in our next class, I'll be introducing us to ORMs for SQL database. If you check this Mongoose website now, this mongoose.com, you see it is saying, I think, OBM. That's object, is it OBM? Yeah, ODM rather, ODM. Sorry, so I was saying, if you check the Mongoose website, you'll be seeing something like ODM, which means Object Data Modeling. So OBM, sorry, and Mongoose is what you use, or an OBM. You can see another OBM apart from Mongoose, but Mongoose is the most popular one. You can see another OBM that you can use. It is actually a library that connects MongoDB to your Node.js application, and you can be able to communicate to your MongoDB database. And then, like I'm saying, in our next class, we'll be working on ORMs, whereby we won't have to be writing MySQL queries. We won't have to be writing SQL queries for MySQL, just like we have Mongoose, where we are just saying user.find1. We'll be able to do that for MySQL as well. And we won't have to be writing SQL queries, like I said. And also, we'll be working with database relationships. And that's the one to many, many to one relationships. I hope you understand that.